Greetings, Carl.
Hello, Michael. How's it going?
I'm doing well. Just chugging along here. We're slowly watching the world begin to reopen. I'm kind of excited about it.
Yeah, very, very exciting things around here for sure. Better not talk about that. There's like we could talk for hours about reopening and masks and vaccines and all that stuff. So let's just skip it.
Yeah, but it's it's a good theme, I think, for today's conversation. We talked last episode about sort of that dynamic of what happens when like you want to take a leap, like you want to go start a thing, you want to go start your own firm. It's scary. You may not have capital. Sometimes we really don't have capital. Sometimes that's kind of the excuse we use just because it's scary. I'm certainly seeing in general, just as we come out of the pandemic, a lot of people I think are just looking at the world with a fresh set of eyes. I'm seeing a lot of like, I'm ready to take my life in a different direction here, whether that's moving, relocating, but a lot of that is switching platforms, starting firms, going out on their own. And so in that theme, actually, like one of the questions that we had that came in was, I'm starting my own firm. I hear all this stuff out there about like mission statements and core values and vision. And I thought like the person just had a really good question. Like, do I need to do all that stuff if I'm just trying to like go out and be an advisor? Like, do I actually need to worry about all that stuff? So I'm curious for your thoughts around this. I don't know if you're a mission statements and vision and core values guy or not. We've never really had this conversation before. So I've no idea where this discussion's going to go.
It might be trouble. Here's the problem. I was born and raised in Utah. Utah is the home of Stephen Covey and the Franklin Day Planner people. And so I was I had friends who had hip harnesses of day planners, right? Like whoop, you could you could pull them out like in a holster. Like I was in that age in college where it was like chaos. So I was just hammered by mission statements and values. And so you can hear the disdain that comes out because I was just like, I
was going to say, you're not exactly saying this up in the most positive of ways.
No, but it's really funny. As you mentioned it, I sort of was realizing like, you know what, I do have those. And we just call it something different. At Behavior Gap, we have a document called the code. And it's basically just sort of our operating. It was really when I hired my COO, she was like, well, wait, why do you do that? And I was like, well, because I'm only like, I have a rule. My rule is I'm nice. And we were talking about on Twitter. I was like, well, why don't you like engage? I'm like, because I'm nice on Twitter. Like I'm nice. She's like, oh, we should write that down. She wrote it down. She's like, would you record a video on what you think about nice? And so we started doing this. Now we've got this huge document of the things of code, like we take responsibility, right? Like that's another line in the code. We take responsibility, which essentially means if somebody says something negative about my work online, we don't fight. We look for, this is what it says in the code. We look for, even if they're only 1% right, that's the way we phrased it. Even if they're 99% wrong, we look for the 1% and we talk about that. Like, oh, that's a good point. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. It will make my work better. Because that's true, right? And we found the other things turned it. So that's part of the code, right? And so I think it actually is, it really pains me to say this, but I actually think it is really important because it's important, even if you're a solo person, to just sort of codify, right? Like, is that the right word? I think it is.
Yeah.
Like, figure out like, why do you behave the way you behave? And in the context of starting your own firm, you're probably doing this because you have an opinion, right? Like you have an opinion that a hunch, I like an opinion, right? You have an opinion that something should be done differently than the way you're currently doing it or the way you're allowed to currently do it. And why not just write those opinions down? Now, one thing I'll mention and I'll turn it back to you is like, it's okay if they're just guesses, right? Like, no, like you may not know. And sometimes it feels like it's not carved in stone. It's not meant to be. You're never done with this stuff. Like the code, we're updating it all the time. So it's not meant to be carved in stone. Just a draft is awesome because then you go back and revisit it. So that's my I guess I've come around. I'm okay with these things. Let's don't make me carry it on my hip in a like little planner.
A little day planner. Yeah, I'll admit I've kind of come full circle around on these as well. I'll admit, like really early in my career, I would just say like I just feel like I got it. Like I did some exercise of trying to create mission statements and vision statements. I did it with some firms I was involved with early on. I did it for some like nonprofit groups. I mean, I do remember like a fateful like day-long meeting with my like board of my FPA chapter 15 odd years ago, where like we sat down and spent like 7 hours trying to come up with like an updated mission statement for our chapter. I'm like, I have no idea what the value was of that day.
I actually
like we spent a lot of hours and then came out of that room doing exactly what we were doing before.
I'm actually realizing as I'm listening to you, like seeing you over in the corner with an abacus trying to work out like what is this?
No, Carl, I do it all with spreadsheets now.
This does not fit in the spreadsheet. I don't know. What are you people talking about?
But like it has changed for me. Like what I realized, at least for me, like my aversion for things like vision statements and mission statements was because my only experience was with organizations that said it and didn't really live it and do it.
Oh yeah.
And then it really is literally very meaningless. But then it's meaningless. Like, why am I doing this? It's rah-rah, it's fluff, it's useless, it means nothing. Because like it didn't. But when it does, it does. What I find is powerful about this is just when you get clear on what it is you're trying to do on this earth. And I think as you put it beautifully, like you've got some opinion, right? Virtually every advisor I've ever met who went out and started their own firm, at the end of the day, it was something to the effect of, I just couldn't do it the way I thought it should be done where I was before. And I realized the only way it could be done the way I think it should be done is that I'm going to have to start my own firm and do it myself. Yep. And I think as you so beautifully put it, like you have an opinion about how this should be done, whatever this is, your version of advising for whoever it is that you serve.
Yep.
And to me, like that is the core of your mission. That is the core of what you're there for. I'm a big fan of EOS. EOS tends to call this like your purpose, cause, or passion.
Yeah, that's nice.
Like it's your why. It's your thing. Like we have lots of different words we can use it. I think you can just say like it's your opinion. It's that opinionated view that you think planning and advice should be done a certain way for a certain kind of people in a certain manner. Like that forms the anchor of your purpose, cause, or passion and your why. And then what it is that you're going to do that you can uniquely do, that you can bring to the table that says anybody who comes to work with us, like they're going to get this from me that they don't get anywhere else. And just having that to form a nucleus, to me, what happens, I love this statement from Stephanie Bogan, when the vision is clear, the decisions get easy. One of the biggest challenges I see for advisors when they're getting started, their vision isn't actually clear. Either it's not clear or they haven't really gone all in and commit to it. Maybe it's in their head, but they haven't articulated, try to write it down, say like, yes, that's it, I'm doing that. And so clarity of vision becomes a filter for you. I want to do this, which means, okay, well, I need these tools. I need this platform. I need to structure my business this way. I'm going to do this thing that adds value in the world. And when we don't have clarity on it, well, it's like, well, I know which planning software to use. I know which platform to join. When we don't have the clarity, the rest of the decisions get harder. When the vision gets clear, the decisions get easier. And so I tend to think of this as basically it becomes your filter. And the more that you own it and step into it, the easier all the decisions get. Like, I'm just doing this thing and I just only want to serve these types of clients. And I'm just only going to do it this way. You know, if you just say, I just only want to do comprehensive financial planning for people who are nice to work with, and you step into that and own that, unabashedly, bravely own it, you will be amazed how easy decisions actually get. Like, oh, I had this client and like, it's a pretty big opportunity, but they're kind of painful to work with and like was really tedious. But it's a lot of money. I don't know if I want to do it. Like, no, wait, my vision is to do comprehensive financial planning for people who are nice to work with. And this person is unpleasant and only wants an investment portfolio help. Like, no, the answer is no. Like, this is really easy now. The answer is no. Like, this is not who I'm here to work with. This is not what I'm here to do.
Is it striking to you that how similar this is to, like a statement of financial purpose for a client, or like obviously clarifying like some sort of value, whatever you want to call it. I call it a statement of financial purpose. Yeah, those are totally worthless if you set them on the shelf. Like, your financial plan is totally worthless if you set it on the shelf. That's why so many people are frustrated with speaking broadly, not this audience, but our industry broadly, is because they sell a plan and like, well, it's never picked up again, it's worthless. And what we're saying here is this becomes an operating manual that needs to be reviewed. The idea of opinion to me, I just think of the only kind of business I'm interested in running is a business. The business is the vehicle for forcibly inserting an opinion into the world, right? That's the way I think of business. It's just like a vehicle for forcibly inserting an opinion. So my question is like, what's your opinion? Flesh it out a bit, and then it becomes a touchstone that you can come back to, because it makes decisions far easier. It makes strategy far easier. It allows you to save time, and of course, it's going to evolve. Over time. Like, go into it knowing that, because then you can be a little more playful with it. That's the part I don't really love about those. Like, we got to nail this. We got to sit around and do this. And is that word right? And like, you can just be a little more playful with it. Like, 7 hours sounds like misery, but like, could you spend 90 minutes on it and then pick it up again in a month?
Well, I mean, to me, it's a version of the financial planning process itself, where like, yes, I do want to formulate a clear plan of where I'm going. And yes, I fully acknowledge that the moment the client leaves the office, the plan will never again be right and on target. And it is going to change and iterate. And that doesn't make it useless to create the plan in the first place, right? It's actually really helpful to create the plan so we can start creating the roadmap of where we're going and the decisions that we need to make to get there. But we also openly acknowledge, like, when we sit down again in a month with the client, it's all going to be different. And it will be every month again thereafter, as we just react to life and life happens. So to me, it's the same thing here. Although I do find for most people that go down this road is the more you iterate on what that vision is and you start doing things consistent with that, the easier the decisions get, the more a weight feels like it's lifted, and the easier it is to then get even more focused and just kind of start doubling down further, because you start finding what actually works for you. Like, this isn't the right word. This really actually captures the essence of what we do. And now that I've said it, I'm like, that's like a magical word. I never would have thought of it a year ago or 3 years ago, whenever I was making it. But now I've realized, like, this is the thing that I do. And then you get even more clarity, and then the decisions get easier and your filters get better, and you continue down that road.
Let's talk real quickly about practical, like, how do you do it real quick, just to wrap this thing up? Because like, let me give you one example of that. A word that we use a lot internally, and it's in the code, is we play righteous tricks. I didn't know that 3 years ago. I didn't know that 10 years ago. And the difference between a righteous trick, and we're very careful about this, and we don't always get it right, but we're very careful. The difference between a righteous trick and a bait and switch, right? And trying to figure out when, oh geez, is that a bait and switch? Another one is we're not an emergency room. So we work really hard on limiting urgent language. Like, if somebody on the team sends something with 3 exclamation marks, we say, hey, I'm not sure. Like, we don't need ASAP in caps. Like, we don't want that language in the world. We're trying to eliminate scarcity too. And we believe we price for impact, right? We put people over profit. we like, those are the kind of things that have shown up on in the code. So how would you do that? Like, to me, I would just sit down and pretend, and you could even have somebody do this. Like, just have somebody really press you, ask the 7 whys.
Yeah.
Like, why are you starting this? Or why does this firm exist? Why are you starting this firm? Whatever. Why does this firm exist? Why does this firm exist? Yeah. Why is that? Why is that? Go 7 layers deep and just whiteboard those out. Yeah. Right? Like full brainstorm session. No wrong answer. No stupid thing. Just no fear. Just write it all out. Take it, collate it in the thing. Like, ours exists mainly in video. Like, the team just says, hey, record a video. So that video is embedded in a Google document. Like, that's how simple ours is. Other people think of them as like a manifesto, a list of commandments, 10 statements. Like, what advice would you give people to actually go do this thing? So
I in part now, because I've done it for a while with a couple of different businesses, like, I'm a fan of how EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, frames this. I think it's a pretty straightforward framework. They essentially boil it down to 2 things. They call it your purpose and your niche, which isn't quite maybe the same as how we tend to talk about niche. Like, I'm going to specialize in 40-year-old physicians. Purpose is just like, what's your purpose, cause, or passion? Like, just the thing that gets you out of bed to do what you do every day. As you said, like, the thing you have an opinion about. And then, what is it that you do to accomplish that? The purpose is the why, the niche is the what. And to me, it really just is writing that stuff out, like, put it on a whiteboard, put it on a piece of paper, just like write it down and look at it and ask, like, is that a good description of why I went and launched this thing and what I'm doing that adds value? And one of the great things that EOS, I know, advocates in particular, is that that core focus is not something you create, it's something you discover. You do know it. It is inside of you, because you are using it, recognized or not, to make the business decisions that you make. When you say, I am going to do this thing and I'm not going to do that other thing, it is there. Once you articulate it and you find some of the words, you put it down, you get a lot more clarity and the decisions get even easier, but it is in you now. So I think it's just starting to try to write it down, the why and the what. And I love your framing of, have someone ask you why about those several times, just to force you to keep drilling down to say, what really is the essence here.
Mm-hmm. The person who did that to me the best ever was Ron Lieber, my editor and good friend. I remember, and he got relatively aggressive about it once, and it was really cool. I mean, he was like, no, I'm not buying it. We're not there yet. Like, he was like, no, really, well, why? And it got to the point where I was like, it was like this, like a thing came out. And find somebody like that. Like, find somebody who will really push on you. And because, I believe those things are there.
Yeah.
Or else you probably wouldn't have done this thing. And then let me back up from that. That's a punch in the face. Here's an empathetic hug. Maybe not, right? Like, maybe you're like Tom Brokaw's Greatest Generation. We have clients like that. And you're just like, I just want to build a good business. You know what? That's totally okay too. You don't have to be a revolutionary to have a vision statement, right?
Yeah, I mean,
that's totally okay too.
It doesn't have to be a totally revolutionary thing, but like, there's, you made your thing and didn't go work at someone else's thing. You've got an opinion. You do have an opinion about something.
Perfect.
As I think you said, Carl, so well. So, we usually have it. A lot of the time, we just don't want to say it. We don't want to admit it. Sometimes even getting back to our last podcast, like it feels risky to say it and commit to it.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. Like, I don't want to dive too deep on it, but Seth Godin talks about that as like, we're hesitant to put ourselves on the hook.
Yeah.
Right. Like, once we say it, we've sort of put ourselves on the hook for something, and that can feel risky. And You don't have to do it publicly. Like nobody else has to know about this. So
Yeah.
if this is important to you, walk gently into it and get it done.
Yeah. The one piece I will add to that quickly, just in terms of as you said, like this doesn't, like this can be for you. It doesn't have to be public. And I think that is true when you're getting started. There does come a point though, when this actually becomes much more important in your business. And I find it's usually about 5 or 6 team members. And the reason why that becomes a magic number is for most people that's your span of management control before you run out of time and capacity to manage people. So when it's you may or may not have articulated it, but you know what that thing is. Like it's in your brain deep down. You're using it when you make your decisions, even if you never realized it before. And when you hire someone, it's actually still fine because they come to you for all the decisions. So everything still routes through you. And when you add a second and a third, and even a fourth person, usually as the founder, you're still at the center of the business and everybody reports into you. So every decision is still running through that filter, whether you've articulated it out of your brain or not. When you get to 5 or 6 people is usually when you have to hire someone in your firm starts managing someone else in your firm who no longer reports to you. And the moment that happens, if you have not figured out how to articulate this, people start making different decisions than the decision you would have made in that situation. And if you haven't gotten clear on what the vision is and being able to articulate it, either they're going to start making decisions you don't like and you're going to be unhappy. They're going to start making decisions you like, and then you're not going to want to hire anyone else. And then you're going to stop the growth of your business. Or you're otherwise going to start making yourself stuck. So if you want to see everybody else make the decisions that you would have made in that situation, to me, that is the very essence of what mission statements and vision are all about. The clearer you get on that and the clearer you articulate to everyone else, the more clear they will be able to make the same decision you would have made in that situation. And that's what actually makes it easier to get to the next level.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's why the code started happening here.
Yep.
Was my COO was smart enough to say, hey, we're trying to kind of make decisions like you at scale.
Yep. And
we need this in an operating sort of manual. We'll call it the code because we are fancy feelings and we can't have the mission statement.
Yep.
Like that. And so, yeah, now everybody who works with us gets access to the code. So
Very cool.
Totally super awesome. Thanks, Michael.
Awesome. Thank you, Carl.